What comes first, vision or execution? Execution and vision have to go hand in hand. Gino Wickman, creator of EOS, he says that vision without traction is hallucination. The number of people that you know that may have a big goal for their life, fewer people are actually taking steps towards achieving that vision. And even fewer than that are doing it effectively. So if you create a culture in your organization where you're holding each other accountable, where you have a discipline of execution, you are naturally attracting people that are hungry for that vision. Strengthen the love, the legacy, and the lifestyle in your family business. This is Fearless Family Business. Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Fearless Family Business Show. My name is Adam Hill, and today is going to be all about vision and execution. This is like the chicken and the egg of family business. What comes first, vision or execution? And this question came to my mind not too long ago when I was attending a conference and I was listening to a speaker talking about attracting great people to your organization. Something we all want to do, of course, right? We want to attract really great talent to our organizations. It's a big topic, and we're competing for that talent that really wants to work hard. And the thing that the speaker said on stage was that if you want to attract great talent, you need to have a great vision. You need to have a really powerful vision, an amazing vision for what the company is going to be if you want to attract great talent. And I thought about that, and it sounded right. You know, it sounds right that, of course, you want to have a big vision. You want to be going somewhere great if you want people that want to go somewhere great to come with you. And I was reflecting on it, but something felt a little empty about that. Something felt like it was just not sufficient. And I was talking around the table with the group that was at my table at the time, kind of talking about what might have been missing. And I was reflecting on that. And I was like, well, if you're going to have a great vision, you know, you also have to be doing something, because if you don't have a great vision, you're just dreaming, right? And you're not really executing on it. So we kind of came to this belief that yes, great people are attracted to a great vision, but when they're going to come and work for you, they're going to be coming to work for you over the competition that also has a great vision, because you're executing on that great vision. You will attract great people when you're executing on a great vision. So execution and vision have to go hand in hand. That gets to something that Gino Wickman, the author of the book Traction and the creator of EOS, once said about vision and traction and execution. In his book Traction, he thinks of execution as traction. And he says that vision without traction is hallucination, which is true. I mean, if you have a great vision and that's all you have is the vision and you're not actually executing on it, well, then you're just dreaming. Am I right? You're just dreaming. And how is that different than anybody else that can come up with a great idea but doesn't put any action into creating that idea? So that kind of sums up the idea that you can't just have vision or execution. You have to have both. But now the question is, which comes first? And this is really also part of the EOS repertoire of a concept that goes within EOS. And the answer as to what comes first, vision or execution, might actually surprise you. It surprised me when I first got into EOS many years ago, and when we ultimately began to implement EOS and see the effects of it, it began to ring true, and I began to understand why. It's more important, or it's important to start with execution before you start with a vision. Let me say that again, because it may be catching some of you off guard. It's important to execute first, to get into the discipline of execution before you build a vision or before you put the vision out there. Now, you may already have a great vision. You may already be putting that into the world, and that's okay. And I want to just take a moment with that, because you may be wondering, well, that doesn't sound right. And yes, you're right. It is counterintuitive. It's counterintuitive to me, even as I say it now, as a visionary myself, someone who comes up with a whole lot of ideas a lot, and most of them never come to fruition. It's hard for me to believe really that execution should come before vision. But I want to talk a little bit about why that's the case and why it's so important. When we did begin implementing EOS in our company, we found that as we started the execution process, as we flipped the script on Focus Day, on our first day within EOS, and we started implementing the foundational tools, which are really about execution, building the right structure, and putting a discipline of execution into place. I realized it was getting into this habit that was really, really powerful and really, really important to us. And I think that there's a good reason for that, because you think about the number of people that have a great vision. I mean, think about the number of people around you and that you surround yourself with that have a big vision for their lives. What does that look like in your circle? Well, chances are, if you're surrounding yourself with people that want to achieve more in their lives, you are surrounded by a lot of people with a big vision for their life, people with big dreams, big concepts for dreams. But the truth is, anybody can dream. Anybody can come up with a great big dreams. How many of those people that are dreaming in your life are actually executing on those dreams? My guess is it's going to be far fewer. My guess is that the number of people that you know that may have a big goal for their life, that even fewer of those people are actually taking steps towards achieving that vision. And even fewer than that are doing it effectively or executing effectively. And so we kind of get to this point that the reality is that without execution, that vision just remains an idea. And I'd love to share some examples of entrepreneurs that started that way. And the reason why execution is the important starting point for getting the ball rolling is because really you want to start building that momentum before you even start. You want to build the momentum of execution so that when you do start to establish that vision, you're hitting the ground running. You've already built that discipline. You've already built the discipline of being able to do stuff. And better still, if you start small, if you just start with those actionable steps of creating a discipline of doing things that move you in a direction of growth, well, then by the time you actually start to create that vision, your execution aligns with your ability to move toward that vision. So execution is the first and great starting point for achieving that great vision.
If you're a family business owner or operator and you're looking to get more control over your business, I would love to talk with you. I want to give you a special invite to request a free 90-minute workshop with me to learn the powerful tools of EOS, the Entrepreneurial Operating System. Just shoot me an email at adam.hill@eosworldwide.com. Again, that email is adam.hill@eosworldwide.com. I'll put that in the show notes as well, and I look forward to talking to you soon.
Think about the great entrepreneurs throughout history that have done great things. You think of Bill Gates, or Jeff Bezos, or anybody that started a multi-billion-dollar company. Many of them started in their garage by building a computer, by just building something small, by doing something. They may have not have visualized that it would become the titan that it would become today. And a lot of like the mortal entrepreneurs like ourselves. If you've started a business or if you know people who have started successful companies, a lot of times they started as teenagers. They were mowing lawns. They were selling candy at their elementary school, for a quarter. They would go buy it at the grocery store for whatever it cost, and then they would sell it at school to their friends and make a profit. They did stuff. They just executed. They built the discipline of execution. They didn't wait for this grand vision to arise before they started doing stuff. That's the value of executing, even when you don't quite have that vision clearly articulated yet. It's important to start executing first. Another thing about execution is if you already have an established company, you've already got a product, you're already selling a product into the marketplace, and you've already got success there. You just happen to be hitting a ceiling or a plateau, and you want to visualize yourself somewhere greater. The idea of actually executing and setting a system for execution in a very systematic way, actually starts to build more credibility and starts building that momentum. When you start to execute well and you build this system of execution, you start to inspire trust. So what do I mean by a system of execution? Well, what I really mean by that is implementing the right tools that keep you disciplined and accountable and on track to actually executing effectively. These are things like goals. Like if you have yearly goals, if you set those goals and you work daily toward them methodically, and you achieve those goals every year, you're developing that muscle of execution. You're developing that credibility. If you break it down into those quarterly priorities, those 90-day priorities that we call rocks, and you're executing on those effectively, well, then you're getting into the discipline of execution. If you're having weekly meetings and quarterly meetings and regular contacts with your employees that are structured, that are high quality, well, then you are building that muscle of execution. You're building that momentum. You're building credibility, and you're inspiring trust within your teams that you're executing. And when you're building that trust and when you're building that muscle of execution, what you're doing there is, as everybody starts to execute on doing the things, they're going to become hungry for a vision. When you build the muscle and the discipline of execution, you become hungry for that vision. And then when you build that vision, you already have the credibility, you already have the momentum. So now you just keep moving forward in the direction of that vision. You create that powerful vision that you're aligned with, and you're more likely to achieve it, because not only are you building that credibility and you're moving in that direction, everybody also starts to see that vision in their mind. And they've already demonstrated, they've already learned that you can keep going in that direction and succeed with it, because you've demonstrated that credibility of execution. And execution breeds accountability. When you execute effectively, accountability grows from there. And when leaders follow through, that's what sets the tone for the entire organization. So if you can build that discipline of execution, it sets the tone for the entire organization. So that's why that's why it's best to focus on execution first over vision, before crafting that long-term vision, before getting crystal clear on that. And that's one of the nature of what happens within the world of EOS. Is the very, very beginning of the journey through EOS, we flip the script. Where vision sits at the top of the model and traction sits at the bottom of the model, we flip the script, and we actually focus on execution in EOS first. Within that focus state, we focus on foundational tools. We set those 90-day priorities, those rocks, before there's even a vision to be created. We focus on developing a meeting pulse where you have those weekly level 10 meetings so that you can build the discipline of execution. And these systems really create that momentum to create data-driven evidence that will help you to make that vision become a reality. Because as you begin to create data through these meetings, through the rocks that you're finishing, you're giving yourself the credibility, but you're also giving yourself data points that suggest where you should be focusing your energy, where your core competency is, so that creating that vision becomes it becomes simpler to do. You already have the data and the evidence to show where you should be going, and you build that vision effectively. And so why is this relevant for family businesses in particular? Well, because a lot of times the vision for family business is rooted in the past. A lot of the times the vision for the family business is to continue a legacy that was built by previous generations. And over time, of course, the world evolves around us, and we get trapped in this idea of furthering a vision for the founding generation, which isn't necessarily a bad thing. But over time, of course, things get stagnant. You hit a wall, you hit a ceiling, you hit a plateau, or things evolve around you, and the old vision just doesn't become as relevant. And you have to think of new ways to do things. It's the continuing idea of putting a process together that helps you to continue executing so that you can create a more powerful vision that looks more into the future, not the past. You can always respect the past and the founder vision that was created, while also building a vision for the future. The key is in the execution, because that's where you're generating the data. That's where you're gathering the data. That's where you're gathering the evidence of what you can become. It's in that execution where you grow, where you start to break through ceilings, where you start to address the sacred cows that might be holding you back, where you start to where you start to break down the things that were anchors in your business that were holding you back from becoming the best version of the company that you can be. It's within that execution where you can become open and honest, and that is incredibly valuable in a family business, where it is easy for things to get caught up in the muck of just being unable to move forward because of certain sacred cows or tradition or things that cause us to not want to execute. We become stagnant. We rest in our laurels, and it's when we pause and we rest in our laurels and we don't execute that we become stuck. So that consistent execution and building the systems around that can help us to break through those ceilings. That vision that we want to create is in the midst there, somewhere within the discipline of the execution that we have. People who are great, as I mentioned earlier, at execution just naturally develop the hunger for vision. And so if you create a culture in your organization where you're holding each other accountable, where you have a discipline of accountability, where you have a discipline of execution, you are naturally attracting people that are hungry for that vision. And when you're showing that you're working, that you're executing on it, well, those people are going to bring in that hunger for vision, and you're going to build that vision for the greater good. But visionaries, on the other hand, if you flip that script, visionaries might not always have the hunger for execution. That's where just dreamers come in. That's where that hallucination comes in. That's where the friends that you know that may not necessarily have the discipline of execution and just keep dreaming but not going anywhere, that's where they might be coming into play. Because great visionaries don't always have the hunger for that execution. And those dreamers get frustrated. So if you have a vision and you're not executing on it, or you don't know how to execute on it, you're often probably frustrated. And you can look throughout history and you can look at great visionaries who have succeeded. Steve Jobs, who built Apple computers based on a business that started in his garage, or Henry Ford, who built the assembly line for automobiles. You can see those visionaries who've succeeded, but you know what? Let's face it, they all sit atop the graveyard of visionaries whose visions died in the fields of inaction. Their lack of effective execution killed their dreams. Vision without execution is hallucination. So the key takeaway is that great execution builds a foundation that vision will stand on. If you can build that execution, that vision will stand on that foundation. So here's my challenge to all of you as you go forward and you think about this. And this is a good time to think about this as well, because we're getting into this period of time where many of our annual goals or our annual visions, we spend the first part of January visualizing what our year can be. This is where they tend to fall apart. Now, what I want to encourage you to do is revisit that vision from the perspective of how can you just do some work today? How can you daily get into a habit of execution? And this is important for you if you're a family business leader, because again, there's a lot of dynamics that don't like the idea of systems going into the family business. But if you can incorporate a system of execution, well, then you're going to get into that habit, and you're going to build that muscle. And as you build that muscle, you're going to realize that you'll become hungry for a vision. And that's when you can create that powerful vision. Creating a vision is the fun part, but getting into that habit of building the foundation of execution, that's often hard. So focus on what's hard first. Eat the frog first. And here's my simple starting point for you to on where you can do that. These are all based in building the system for it. I would recommend just defining some quarterly goals. They're called rocks in the world of EOS, but set some rocks for yourself. Set some rocks for the company as a whole, and then hold yourself accountable to them. Hold yourself accountable to achieving those rocks. Get the leadership team together and set those rocks, the biggest priorities that you can have in the business, and get those done within the next 90 days. And then in the next 90 days, you'll do the same thing again. Just get into that discipline and then reinforce that discipline through a weekly meeting. Marie and I got onto this podcast earlier. We talked about how a weekly meeting took our relationship from like a level 6 to a level 10. And that's what I want to encourage you to do within your family business is start a weekly meeting with your leaders where you are driving the pulse of the business, not just any meeting where you just catch up, but make it a really nicely structured, a great structured meeting. And EOS has a great structure for this called the Level 10 Meeting Agenda. And in that meeting, and you can find videos of this online, in that meeting, you drive accountability, you start to check in on those rocks, you hold each other accountable, and you solve the key issues in your organization. So focus on just starting with those to drive that execution in your business. And then just watch as your leadership team starts to get really hungry for a great vision, for a powerful vision of what you can become. And then watch as that data starts to pour into your organization over what you can achieve. And watch how clarity comes into play, how transparency comes into your organization so that you can see what is possible for you. That's where great vision comes from. Great vision comes from great execution. And great vision and great execution together attract really great people to your organization. And that's what's going to help you to get to the next level, to break through that ceiling. Good businesses don't just succeed because they have big dreams. A lot of great dreams have died in the fields of inaction. They succeed because they execute relentlessly and they execute with discipline. So just start today and just watch how that execution transforms a new vision into your reality. Thanks for joining me today. We'll see you next time.